Welcome to Straight from the Hip. I'm your host, Coach Gerald Boo Mitchell, coming to you live from Sugar Hill, Georgia. Actually, we're on our Zoom format again today, so we're coming to you from everywhere. I have Jason and Travis out there, man. We got some announcements we're going to make about that a little bit later on. But anyway, Jay, what's going on? Talk to me. Tell me what's happening.
Well, I know everybody's been interested to talk about, or probably has seen, The Last Dance, the chronicling the last year of the Chicago Bulls with Michael Jordan and et cetera. So I thought it was just a good watch last night. I wanted to see what we took away from it. I guess we can start with you, Travis. What did you take away from the documentary last night?
My biggest takeaway was the general manager, Jerry Krause, I believe was his name, just how much players just did not get along with him, how he caused so much, I'm not going to say grief, but how much anger he caused between teammates against him and how they just did not get along with him whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, that was very evident. I mean, I think, I think a lot of that's probably deserved, in my opinion. Jerry was extremely arrogant. I mean, Krause was an arrogant man. And so a lot of the stuff that he got, he deserved. Because, he felt like he was more important than anybody on that team.
Pre-production, we mentioned something briefly. We mentioned something briefly that it kind of felt like, and maybe they'll get deeper into it, but for the first two, it kind of made Jerry Krause kind of sympathetic. Like, even at one point, it was a guy saying, like, Jerry Krause grew up, short, fat, white guy. He wasn't noticeable, and they even had the scene of him in the crowd with everybody overlooking him. Like, they kind of made him feel sympathetic, and then they didn't help it by having Michael kind of take digs on his weight and, I'm going to get you some diet pills, and, Jerry, you want to do the layup line? Well, if you do, we got to lower the rim for you. And then, it ended with Scotty going buck on him on the bus.
Like, what I saw from the first two episodes is pretty much my knowledge of, how the Bulls, were, back in the day. I felt like he was a very sympathetic figure. I actually felt bad for him a little bit because they were going in on him. It seemed like they didn't stop. And I know some of that can be edited to show that it was always constant, but it was constant, obviously. And I kind of felt bad for him that, everyone was just making fun of him for being kind of a dopey looking average white guy who was short, overweight, and just didn't, there wasn't anything special about him, even though, let's face facts, as we saw in the episodes, he was a 2-time executive of the year. So he was good at what he did.
Not one iota. Not at all. I mean, none. It's like I said, I mean, it just haven't been in that atmosphere. When an owner comes out to your field and how they come in and how they present themselves, it's big to the players, because a lot of times the players be like, you know what, this is an all right dude. And then sometimes they're like, this dude is an asshole. And to those guys, I think he was an asshole.
I'm going to say the biggest thing I took from The Last Dance is I feel like nostalgia plays a key in how people remember events in the past. And all the things I argue about on this show, I felt like The Last Dance 1 and 2 kind of redeemed my thought process. 1, tanking existed back then because we never get, these teams tank, it's terrible. 2, minutes restrictions and playing people when they were injured on low minutes and on load management happened back then. And then most importantly, which is just so beautiful to hear and see when I saw it, number 3, even the guys that quote unquote hated each other, they were still kicking in and hanging out. Michael Jordan was playing golf with Danny Ainge the day before the second playoff game and et cetera. All that stuff, LeBron and all, they just friends with everybody. They were friends back then, and they played all the same hard or whatever. So I felt like that definitely showed it. Not to mention, when I talked about the talent being like whatever, like it used to be the same thing back then. I mean, the Bulls made the playoffs with 39 wins, made the AFC, but you talk to coach, these teams was all good. They all were just fighting tooth and nail to get in here.
They were a lot better than they are now.
They won 30 games.
I promise you they're better than they were now.
Out of 82, they made the playoffs with 39 wins. Get
You
out
got
of
three
here.
teams in the NBA this year that got a chance to win the championship.
Look, y'all nostalgia jokers lied.
I disagree. I just disagree with what you're saying. I mean, like I said, and me and the people who lived in that era, y'all were thoughts in your parents' minds at the time. But me and the people who actually were living in that era can tell you the NBA was a lot more exciting then than it is now. Not even close. Not even close.
It's a complete opinion-based fact by the fact that you had
Absolutely.
2 games on a week.
Absolutely. Just, I mean, what you're saying.
Yeah, it was more entertaining. I agree. It was more entertaining because if I can pick the 2 best games every weekend and put them on TV, and that's all I see, I don't see the Tuesday night in Toronto. I don't see the Wednesday night in the Bucks. They weren't watching.
There wasn't really a Toronto back then anyway, so you probably wouldn't have seen no Toronto anyway.
My point still remains the same. You weren't watching those games. Top heavy back then, it's top heavy now. The league has always been top heavy. In this league, the era that you love so much, 2 teams dominated the 80s, the Lakers and the Celtics. The league that you love so much, the 90s, 1 team won 6 championships. Please tell me how competitive all these leagues were. And the only era in the NBA that was competitive was the 70s, and it had the lowest attendance and lowest viewer rate of all time. That you all make it seem like it was so different, and it's the exact same thing. You are literally making my point. It's the exact same thing.
It wasn't the exact same thing.
How many finals did the Lakers go to in the 80s, Coach?
I have no idea.
They went to 8. Out of 10 years, they went to 8.
Okay, I mean, they were a dominant team.
They played the Celtics for 3 of those years? Come on, man. Stop it. Look, that's my take from it. I don't know how Travis felt about it. My take was we exposed all the lies that these old folks told. And that was only from watching 1 team. We didn't get to see the whole scope of the NBA. Hey. Coach, what was your hot take from Last Dance?
I appreciated Scottie Pippen #1 a lot more than I ever have, and I've always appreciated Scottie. But hearing Michael talk about him the way that he did, I was glad to see that. The way Jordan talked about Pippen, he said you can't really say Michael Jordan without saying Scottie Pippen.
True.
Because Scottie was my right hand man. You know, he was my Robin. Blah 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 blah. And I appreciated seeing that from Jordan. And then I also just appreciated the fact that Scottie was doing all that he did. And obviously his contract situation wasn't the best and whatnot. And yes, he did get upset on the bus one time and said some things he probably shouldn't have said. And probably should have played when he didn't play because he was upset about the whole contract situation. But again, I knew that there were some problems back then. I didn't know to what extent. And then seeing it last night and seeing it, how, you know, Scottie, though, was Scottie. I mean, he still did his thing. That brought a little joy to me.
I'm shocked that you take that opinion because I kind of felt like you should be the opposite. Like, Scottie Pippen admitted that he could have gotten surgery to get his foot better, to be ready for the season, and decided, nope, I'm not going to do it because the team is not paying me, basically.
No.
Being a teammate guy, I'm surprised you're like, oh, that's fine. As a teammate, being a teammate guy, you would be like, well, look, you know what? I'm going to go get this surgery so I can be ready for the season for my team because I make my team better, and we'll talk about these contracts, and if it comes down to it, I may have to pay a power move, but I at least want to be ready to go when the season starts for my team.
Well, that's where you come in. You say, I'm not going to play and get myself ready because that asshole in there that everybody is feeling so damn sorry for won't pay me my damn money.
Well, he paid him his money. He got a contract. He's paying him his money.
I know.
We talked about this last night. He's the one that signed the contract.
I know. But you know what?
$80 million contract.
You know what he did? He decided to be just like the jokers y'all have in this era. How about that? Where they just, the ink ain't even dry on the paper, and them jokers ain't doing nothing. So don't give me that crap.
Hey, I'm pro-player.
Don't even go there with me about that. Because y'all know how it is in this era.
To the choir.
These jokers here will play 1 year under that contract and want to raise the next year.
Tell me where I've been different.
Damn training camp.
Tell me where I've been different. I've been for the player doing this. That's y'all two, you and Travis. Oh, you signed the contract. You got to think about your team. Don't be a distraction. I'm all for the player doing this. I've been consistent in that.
But you could have doubled that man's salary, given him from 2.8, moved him up to 5.6. That y'all wouldn't even felt that in your pocketbook.
I agree.
They could have absorbed that easily, and that would have been big to him. Cause dang, they doubled my salary, and now you got the second damn best player in basketball be happy. How about that? Making him happy, and now you have a damn dynasty.
Won't you do what you normally do? Won't you tell your man Jordan, who's getting paid way more than everybody on the team, cut down his $33 million and throw about $5 million back?
And you tell your guys to do the same thing in this era.
I'm just doing what you
tell
saying.
Ezekiel Elliott to give Dak some of that money and solve the problems that they have down there in Dallas. And get Dak's butt happy and signed to a contract. Tell Ezekiel Elliott to do that. How about that?
You gotta have that conversation with Travis. I've been pro player getting all the money they can get. So don't come here with me. That's you and Travis's thing about these contracts and holding up to them and people getting paid too much money. Oh, how much money is enough money by coach? Well, your man making 33. Throw some down to his number 2 who said, I wouldn't be Michael Jordan if it wasn't no Scottie Pippen. Then give some of that money back to Scottie Pippen.
I'm going to go back to what I always say. When you have these dumbass, he probably had his uncle as his damn agent. That's the problem, is you got these damn bean pickers who ain't ever wore a damn jock strap, and their butts around here trying to get involved in sports. They need to sit their ass down somewhere because they don't know what the hell they're talking about. That's the biggest problem you got in sports right now.
I don't feel sorry for Scottie Pippen. He signed that contract. He did not have to sign the contract. He didn't have to sign the contract of that length of term. He could have signed a shorter deal contract, believed in himself, and said, okay, after 3 years, I'm going to, want a bigger contract and get paid more. Even Jordan said that, and the owner of the Bulls said that. That was a terrible contract that Pippen and his agent did.
NFL draft is going to be this week. We got some movement talking. Detroit said their draft pick is up for grabs. New York said their draft pick is up for grabs. Evidently, Atlanta wants to move up, and the 49ers said both their first-round picks are up for grabs. Coach, do you think Atlanta should move up, and what should they give to move up to the number 5 pick is where they're looking?
I don't give a damn. I think they should move down. That's what I think. I don't give a shit what Atlanta does myself. I mean, here, talk to me about somebody else other than Atlanta. I'll tell you this, though. I do think that San Francisco has themselves in a bad position because they do have 2 first-round draft picks, but they don't have a second, third, and fourth.
Right.
And a lot of times you get some good players in those rounds. And I think that's what they're concerned about, too, because at the end of the day, they weren't really bothered at all by free agency. So they made it all the way to the Super Bowl. So I feel like we've got a lot of guys in the right place. We just need a couple of players here, and they don't have to be some high-dollar guys that we're going to have to get and pay a lot of money to. And then, a couple of years from now, we're going to be wishing we hadn't have done that because we're going to be trying to hold on to some of these players that are going to be trying to get up out of here. So I honestly feel like San Francisco should really try to trade some of those picks and get into the second, third, fourth round area to get some quality backup. That's my advice to any team, the team that I would talk about, and I'll hand the mic.
Travis, what do you got on the draft? What do you think? Any thoughts or any surprise moves, trades, or something that stood out to you?
Yeah, real quick, just to follow up on San Francisco. I actually think San Francisco is in a good spot. At 13, you're going to get a good player. You're going to get a guy that probably falls just out of the top 10. But at 31, you're going to be able to trade that pick. Just like Coach, you said, they don't have a second, third, or fourth round pick. How many years is there somebody that falls that another team in the middle of the second round wants that guy, and you can trade that 31 pick for a second and a third round pick? You're not going to get much, but at least you can get 2 players for that one. And for a team like San Francisco, who's almost there, is just 1 or 2 pieces away, that may be all you need to do, and you're not really giving up too much. Instead of the 31 player, you trade that away for a second round and a third round, or a second and a fourth, and that could make all the difference in the world. I actually like where San Francisco's at. In terms of Atlanta, I think Atlanta's gonna trade because I think Dan Quinn is in I have to win now mode, and the pick 16 isn't gonna do that unless a miracle happens that the player that they want falls to them, which probably isn't going to happen because I think they're looking at Javon Kinlaw of South Carolina. I think they're looking at Derek Brown of Auburn. I think they're looking at C.J. Henderson from Florida. I think all 3 of those guys could be taken before 16. I think they have to move up if they want one of those guys. The problem was they just don't have a lot of draft capital to trade to get that far up into the top 10, because all they got is the first round and the second round pick and the third rounder. So unless they're willing to trade basically 1, 2, and 3 to go all the way up to get one player, that's risking a lot. But they also did that for Julio, and it worked out.
Okay.
So,
Any other comments on the draft?
Let me say this. Let me say this real quick. First of all, you're right, Travis. The 13th pick is right outside the top 10. That's why it's 13. But let me say this to you too. You said that Dan Quinn is in a I have to win now mode. I mean, so what was he in last year? I mean, was he not in I don't have to win this year mode? I mean, what the hell is that? I mean, the bottom line
if they
is
don't make the playoffs, he's
he
fired.
should always be in a I have to win now mode. So why didn't he do this last year? Whatever this scheme that he's got this year, why did he do it last year?
I think there's different expectations every year for different teams.
Okay, my bad, because you are a Cincinnati Bengal fan. Is the expectation not to win as many games as you can every year? Is that not the expectation?
Of course it is, but I'm also you have to have a realistic expectation. Do I think the Bengals are going to win enough games to win the Super Bowl this year? Absolutely not. But does that mean Zach Taylor should get fired if they don't make the playoffs? No. I'm looking for Cincinnati, I'm looking for improvement. That shows me that he's doing a fine job. Atlanta's in a different situation. They have a quality team that should have made the playoffs last year. They didn't. Quinn almost got fired. Everyone knows that. If he doesn't make the playoffs this year, he's gone. So he's got to do something to save his job.
I mean, so I'm assuming you had lunch with Arthur Blanks and he told you that, because I ain't seen that written nowhere that joke is gone if he don't make the playoffs this year.
Well, I mean, I think it was written at the end of the season that there were plans to let him go, and the Falcons won the last, I think, 4 or 5 games in a row. And that's what saved his job. So again, I think with that expectation, if your job got saved because of those last games, you would think going into the next season, the thought process would be, if I do not win, my job is gone because I would have been gone last year.
Yeah, everything you just said is speculation. That was not – Arthur Blank didn't come out and say that anywhere, that if Dan Quinn doesn't win these last 4 games, he's out of here. All that speculation.
Well,
so we're just speculating that if he didn't win those last 4 games.
That was actually reported by the Falcons beat reporter speaking to her that him and Dimitrov were both going to be gone if the players actually saved his job. So, I mean, if the reporter was speculating, then that's a whole other conversation. We can only go off what the news is giving us, and we can pertain as facts. But yes, you're right. Arthur Blank did not come out and say it. Going to the Wonderlic, I know it was a big fuss about the Wonderlic. I think Tua scored relatively low for the quarterback position. I know y'all mentioned Richard Sherman has some talk about it. So what do you guys have on the Wonderlic? Is it important? Worth a damn? Not worth a damn? What's up?
I've never had any faith in it, just from what I've always heard about it. I mean, I've always heard that it's a nice to have. I mean, especially maybe if you're looking at a quarterback or whatever the case may be. Do I think that people can play football without it? Obviously so. I mean, I don't think that football is rocket science. I mean, at the end of the day, if you can run faster and be quicker and all that stuff and have moves like Lamar Jackson, you can play quarterback in any league, anywhere, anyhow. So like I said, I don't have a whole bunch of faith in it myself.
Yeah. To me, it's another tool. It's another tool to look at players, to rank players. It's just another way to, get information on the player. Of course, nobody wants somebody that isn't smart, getting a 0 on this thing. But is it life or death? Absolutely not. It's another tool that I think teams just use. I think it is something that over the last few years, it's actually kind of got diminished unless it's for the quarterbacks. I don't even know if non-quarterbacks take the Wonderlic. I think it's mainly just for a kind of a ranking and a tool just to show, okay, who is, book smart or who can take a test the smartest is supposed to show, who's the smartest quarterback is. I think it's just a way for them to.
If Aaron Donald runs 320 pounds, runs 4.640. He can make a zero on the Wonderlic and still play for me. I tell you that much.
I think what Travis is saying, I think they're using it as a tool to rule out or rule people in. If you're Aaron Donald, you can score 1 million, you can score 0. It don't matter because you can play. I think if you're a marginal guy that's in there, maybe they use it as a tool to determine. And I think also you have to look at what position it is too. I mean, D lineman, and you know more than I do on culture this, but I don't feel like the complexity of what they got to do is extremely huge compared to if you're a quarterback and it comes to reading defenses and making calls. But in this era, a lot of quarterbacks don't even do that anyway. So at this point, I feel like the Wonderlic is pretty much a terrible tool now to use because if you half your quarterbacks now, the guy's still talking to them before they even hike the ball. So,
yeah,
I agree. I mean, I'm with you all the way. I like I said, I think it should be. I mean, do what you want to, but they're not going to throw it out because somebody probably making $1 million a year by instituting that test or doing something. Somebody's daughter is probably getting a kickback or whatever for doing so. Let them keep doing whatever.
Actually, I can tell you that they are because my brother used to work for Wonderlic, the company. Wonderlic is actually the company, and that is they, have a contract with the NFL to have their players do that. So
no doubt.
They're paying them.
No doubt.
And we know as a people, we have a terrible history when it comes to aptitude, intelligence tests, IQ tests. All that stuff usually has been biased in one sort or another. So this could be another one to the pile. Rumors of Odell Beckham Jr. and Leonard Fournette possibly being on the trading block. Naturally, every team has denied it. But do you guys think when there's a little bit of smoke, is there any fire to this conversation?
I think there's absolutely could be some fire to it. When draft day comes around, I mean, they're sitting over there in that stack of kindling right now, being ready to throw on that fire if they need it.
Travis, what do you think?
I think there's a lot more fire to the Leonard Fournette one. I feel like there's been a lot more information and there's been more heat in terms of not getting along between Fournette and just the Jaguars in general for a little bit longer of time. I could see that one coming out and, coming to fruition. Maybe in the draft, maybe right after the draft, who knows. And also with Jacksonville, they have a defensive end, Ngakoue, who they have tried to sign. He does not want to be a part of them. He's gone on Twitter and has dissed and, taken shots at the owner's son. So he's definitely trying to get out of there. So I think he could be one that gets out. But OBJ, the owner or the GM of the Browns came out today and said that's totally false. We don't have any plans of trading him. Now, again, who knows if that's true or not, but I just don't know if that's going to happen.
I mean, the same thing the Giants said before they traded Odell Beckham Jr. is they had no plans of trading him,
I agree.
etc. I honestly, I think both of them could be gone. The one that's more interesting for me is, and this is leading to our next topic, like if you're Leonard Fournette, you really need to shut up because you maybe only got 2 more years left before you are shot, and then you be begging from team to team, which brings us to our next topic of Andy Dalton coming out and saying he'll be perfectly fine being the backup for the Bengals and just he's ready for that role and bring it on. Travis, what do you think about your former quarterback becoming your backup quarterback, him coming out and making that statement?
I think it's smart by Andy Dalton. I think it's a very intelligent thing to say. I think it puts him in a good light because if he was going to get picked up and or traded to another team, it would have happened already before the NFL draft. You're not going to trade for a quarterback a few days before the NFL draft or right after the NFL draft. That just doesn't happen. So he's trying to take the high road and saying, look, I'm happy to stay in Cincinnati. I'm happy to mentor this young quarterback who's going to be the starter. And if he ends up getting injured or if he stinks and he's terrible, Dalton's sitting right there. He can then still be the starting quarterback, and he loses no ill will. He doesn't have any bad feelings from the Bengals fans who he could, Dalton could come out and say, I don't want to be here. This organization stinks. I've hated all my time here in Cincinnati. And if he's the backup, he'd get run out of the state of Ohio. So he's got to say something like this that makes him look good not only to the fans of Cincinnati, the general, the organization of Cincinnati, but as an NFL in general, to show, hey, I'm a guy who's willing to help out, who wants to be a good teammate, and maybe later on down the line I can get the shot that I want. But I think it's a good idea for him to say this.
All right, Coach, go ahead and cook. Go ahead.
No, I'm always amazed when I hear from somebody from just a pitiful, sorry ass, baby shit, just soft ass team who can't win anything. It's all about a group hug. We just want everybody to just be happy, no hard feelings. He sits up there and gives the biggest, softest ass response to somebody gonna come in and take your job. I don't know why he couldn't have a little bit of spine and just say, listen, I know he's a heck of a player, all that stuff, but he might be the future. But right now, I'm the present starting quarterback here, and I plan to keep it that way. And, maybe a couple years from now, he can learn from me and take the reins. More power to him. Show that you care about your job. Show that you want to be a winner, that you want to be part of a winning team. It's no wonder they're so soft when you got the dang quarterback who's supposed to be the leader of the team talking like that. There you go. That's Cincinnati. That's the epitome of Cincinnati right there. He needs to be the quarterback in Cincinnati.
The only thing I would say in the retort to that is that, yes, you're correct. You want your quarterback to be the guy and lead, but we knew since week 10 and 9, Burrow's going to be the starting quarterback for the Bengals next year. The Dolphins tried to give him half their draft, and the Bengals was like, nah, we still taking this Burrow kid. The only thing I can look at it is for the timing of what Andy Dalton said for this moment is he's looking around that league, and he sees that trash heap of quarterbacks that ain't got jobs, that ain't making no money, and he got a job right now. And he could come out and say everything you said, but then what if it's taken the wrong way? What if the organization or the owner or the GM takes it and goes, oh, Andy looks like he ain't trying to play ball. Like he knew the plan. He knew what we was going to do. Now Andy, he talking like he wants to compete and all this, and we don't need all this drama in the training camp. We just want guys to come in knowing he's the starter, Andy get him ready to play. So maybe Andy Dalton did the corporate, quote-unquote, business move, which you always talk about Deion Sanders invented. He did the business move and said, hey, I'm going to play nice because I got a job. Because if I don't play nice, I may not have a job, and then I'm going to be sitting out with Cam Newton trying on outfits every day. So
let me also say this. Andy Dalton is in the last year of his contract, so he's not making peanuts either. He's going to he's probably, I bet, would be one of the top 5 highest paid backup quarterbacks in the league. So it's not like he's not going to be making any money. Right. But next year when he becomes a free agent, of course Cincinnati's not going to want to have him back. So he's going to be a free agent to go to another team, and he can be like, hey, I'm a team guy. Look what I did last year. Look at all the stuff that I've done for Cincinnati. I'd be happy to come to your team. You need a quarterback. I've taken my team to the playoffs, 3, 4, 5 times. Give me a chance. Instead of taking the low road and being I
think that's great. I think that's great of Cincinnati to keep around Andy Dalton, who's going to make all that money as a backup quarterback and still be on a losing ass team, paying him all that money. Why don't they go get Jameis Winston? Or why don't they go get Cam Newton, bring him in and pay him peanuts in a prove-it year and throw Andy Dalton out since he's making all that money?
Because I doubt Jameis Winston or Cam Newton are going to want to be the backup for the Cincinnati Bengals.
In Cincinnati. Exactly. You just want everybody to be happy. Oh, Andy, we love Andy. He helped us lose. He been so gracious in losing all these years. He gives great interviews after we lose. Lovable, and we love him. Y'all suck. Y'all suck. Y'all deserve every ass whipping that you get.
Okay, but also, let's keep in mind, we're discussing Andy Dalton, not the organization. The organization, you are 100% correct. But we're talking about Andy Dalton, why he said what he said. And I'm saying, Andy Dalton said, I see this Rona out here, this COVID-19, I don't need to be unemployed. So I'm going to say whatever I got to say because I keep my job.
I hear you.
All right, so we're going to round at the end of the show, and whatever time we have left, Coach has a rant that he wants to go on to, so we'll finish the show up with that.
This is my thing, and Jason and I talked about it a little bit yesterday, so he got a little preview of this. I'm Kyle Larson, the NASCAR driver, as we all know, came out and did a racial slur on one of these virtual races or whatever the case may be. Did a racial slur, said the N-word. Okay, then just like it always happens when this happens to somebody, he wasn't even. I mean, it wasn't even in the media yet. He was already on Twitter apologizing, saying that he wasn't raised that way. It's a heartfelt apology, blah, 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 blah. So that day ended, I guess it ended, but maybe before the day ended, he called the only black NASCAR driver, Bubba Wallace, and apologized to Bubba Wallace and gave him a very heartfelt apology and blah, 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 blah. Here's my thing, Bubba Wallace. Why do you the next day come out there and accept his apology? It was a very heartfelt apology. I think we all need to give him another chance, blah, 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 blah. Why? I mean, this is a pattern that continues to happen over and over and over again. I would like to see somebody, when Bubba Wallace, he called you at that apology, say, listen, I heard what you said. I see that you lost your job, you lost all your sponsors, all that. Good for them. That's what should have happened to you. That's exactly what should have happened to you. And I'm going to tell you what else should happen to you. For the rest of your life, wherever you go, anytime you're around some black people, it's going to be like the scarlet letter. You're going to have that on you. It's going to be hanging on you for good now. Why do we always come out and try to be the good guy and okay everything? Because you know what? It's not okay. It's not okay. What we're doing is we're giving license to it that it is okay. And if it does happen, all you got to do, I showed Jason a video yesterday of some kids at a local high school making a video where Jason's mouth was just wide open the whole time. He couldn't believe it. I mean, it was that bad. I'm sure they'll be out there on Twitter or whatever here in a minute, making a heartfelt apology, crying, little tears coming out of their eyes. Oh, let's forgive them, let's forgive them. There's no forgiving. I mean, at some point, it's just ridiculous. I mean, the world that we live in, shame on me, shame on everybody in my generation. Jason talked about differences in generation not too long ago. Because I swore to my kids that I was going to make the world a better place for them so they wouldn't have to deal with this stuff by the time they got to be grown. Well, guess what? My kids are grown, and this is evidence that it's going to continue to keep right on rolling. We got to do something about it if we want to change the world. I'm done.
Hey, I love it. I love it, Coach. Yeah, we talked about it, and yes, that video did. You could have picked my jaw up off the ground because of that video, and you know, people who know about it, and whatever. Travis will tell you about it later on.
Sure.
But yeah, you're correct. I mean, I think no words should be followed from that because I think you summed it up perfectly on that one. I mean, this is our show, and we're going to get this produced out. So what Coach was talking about and what I mentioned is that we want to try to get back to getting our fans to be interactive with the show and come in and hang out with us again. So what we're going to do for next week is I'm going to send something out and gather a bunch of emails from a lot of our guests that are familiar with us, and then I'm going to email you an invite to the show. You're not required to have to be on camera if you don't want to. You can always turn off the camera function, and then you can mute yourself. And then if you want to ask questions, there is a chat button I can lift up. Also, if you like chat and say, hey, I want to say something, you can unmute yourself when I'll like call you and say, hey, like, Miss Peavy, go ahead. What was your comment? And you can unmute yourself and speak. So I think this Zoom may end up taking our show to be way more interactive than it was before, because now you can actually comment verbally once we get you going. So I wanted to get that out there. I think by Tuesday or Wednesday, I'll send something out and start gathering up the emails. And then, like I said, when we go live, and I'll let everybody know what time we're going to go Zoom, and we'll do it. So, again, you don't have to be on camera. You can mute it. But if you want to be on camera, we can put you on there. And like I said, a lot of times we'll do the gallery vision so you can be seen if you want to be seen. Or we can go to speaker view where just whoever's talking will be visible on there. So I think that's going to be fun, a nice little treat for our fans that still rock with us and have been starving for getting a live show rather than just a pre-recorded show. So we're going to do that next week. So we're going to have to really be on our A game, gentlemen, for next week then, because, you know, they're going to call us out if we ain't ready.
We'll make it happen.
Sounds
I
good.
ain't worried about it.
All right now.
I
Other
just
than
sent a
that,
chat.
I think
You see me in the chat? I just sent a chat out. I
Yes.
Yeah, I
kissed
just got it.
There you
It's
go.
working. Yeah, I got it.
So other than that, guys, I think that ends our show. Any final words from you, Travis?
No, good show. I'm looking forward to the draft and seeing what craziness happens because there's always one or two that happens. So can't wait to talk about it.
All right, go ahead, Coach, and close us down.
The one or two are always Cleveland and Cincinnati. Good night, Miss Francis.
Straight from the hip.